Come and buy your delicious ekuru here.
They say that in most parts of Yoruba land, it is not every food that a person can sell because some foods carry stories. I mean, stories that belong to spirits, to ancestors, and to covenants too old for the modern ear. But how would Ijoma have known? She was Igbo, raised in the city, and to her, food was just food. Business was business, and hard work could solve almost anything. It all began the year the government awarded a major road project in Enugu. The dusty red earths never rested as giant caterpillars and trucks roared through the town, breaking and shaping new roads where only footpaths had existed. Among the engineers was a tall, dark and soft-spoken Yoruba man named Demola, a man whose gentle manners and calm confidence made everyone, especially women, notice him. But fate had another plan. In one of the offices handling documentation for the projects, there worked a bright, focused young lady named Ijoma. She wasn't the kind to lose focus because of her masked looks. Her colleagues used to call her Madam Independence. She was that woman who preferred to fix her own car tire rather than call a man for help. Their paths first crossed when Demola came to submit some files. He had mistakenly stapled the wrong documents together, and Ijoma, known for her blunt tongue, didn't hide her irritation. Mr. Engineer, you people can build bridges, but can't you just arrange papers well? She asked, frowning as she flipped through the files. Demola laughed, that deep, calm laugh that disarmed her anger. Maybe I should hire you to help me next time, he replied. She looked up, ready to respond sharply, but then their eyes met, and something strange, quiet and warm passed between them. That was how we started. Over the next few weeks, Demola found excuses to visit her office more often. Sometimes it was for signatures, other times for clarifications, but everyone could see it wasn't about paperwork anymore. At first, Ijoma resisted. A Yoruba man? God forbid. My mother would disown me. But the more she tried to keep her distance, the more she found herself drawn to him. Demola was different. Respectful, hardworking, prayerful and patient. One evening after work, the rain began suddenly. Demola offered her a ride home, and though she hesitated, she finally agreed. That night, as thunder cracked over the red soil and the rain poured, he said in the most sweetest way, Ijoma, I don't know how you will take this, but my heart has chosen you. Her heart beat very fast. She wanted to laugh it off, but something in his voice made her believe him. She didn't answer. She just smiled faintly and said, Let's get home first. The rain is too heavy for love talk. Months turned into a year. Demola's project was nearing completion, and Ijoma realized she couldn't imagine life without him. When he finally proposed, it felt right, even though their families reacted differently. Her mother almost fainted. A Yoruba man? Ndiofe Manu. Have you forgotten how they must later marry from their tribe? Demola's aunt in Abeokuta also frowned. Omo Igbo? But the two lovebirds insisted, and against all odds, the traditional marriage took place in Enugu. It was a beautiful fusion of Isiewu and Amala, of Igbo dances and Yoruba drums. Everyone who attended said it was like watching two cultures kneel before love. After the wedding, Ijoma resigned from her job and moved to Abeokuta where Demola was based. At first, everything was smooth. He still had his job and they lived modestly but happily. But 3 months later, one morning changed everything. Demola returned home early from work, his face pale and his eyes distant. IJ, he said quietly, they laid me off today without any reason at all. The words hit her like a slap. She tried to stay calm, telling him it would be fine, but deep down, she knew it was going to be tough. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Demola searched everywhere for work but found no one. Their savings thinned out, and their rent became a burden. Finally, Demola said, "Let's go home. I have a house in the village. At least we won't be paying rent there." Ijoma didn't argue. She had married him for love and not comfort. But when they arrived at his village, she realized she had walked into a world completely different from hers. The people looked at her with curiosity. Her mindset was different. Her dressing too polished and her skin too light and different from others. They smiled, but she could feel the questions in their eyes. Life in the village was not what Ijoma had imagined. It was slow, quiet, and filled with a kind of silence that made her thoughts too loud. Demola changed as well. Not in love, but with spirits. The man who used to wake up early and rush off to work now sat outside on a low wooden bench, staring into the air for hours. Sometimes he joined the men under the big tree at the square to talk about how Nigeria had changed. It broke her heart to see him that way. And as for her, she was learning fast that depending on a man, even one you love deeply, could be its own quiet form of suffering. The first week after they settled, she tried to stay idle. She cleaned the house, fetched water and cooked, but it wasn't enough. She needed to do something that gave her dignity, something that made her feel alive again, and that was how the idea came. The idea that would open doors she never imagined existed. One day, as she walked through the markets, she noticed a food many people ate. Ekuru, a white soft pudding made from beans. She asked one woman about it and she was told it's very easy to make and many people love it. She smiled to herself and then she said, "Perfect." But what Ijoma didn't know and what nobody told her was that in that land, Ekuru wasn't just food. It was a symbol, a spiritual covenant, and a secret offering for witches and spirits. And by deciding to sell it, she was about to step on ancient ground where money and life could never mix freely. She got home and with wisdom she asked Mama Doyin, her neighbor, how to prepare it. She said she wanted to surprise her husband with it. Mama Doyin, with excitement, taught her. And that evening she told Demola, "Dear, I think I will start selling ekuru. People love it here and it doesn't need much capital." He looked up from where he was sitting. "Ekuru? What's that? You know I don't know most of all these things." "It is that white pudding from beans," she replied. He shrugged. "If it will bring money, then go ahead. My dear, at this point, anything that can help is a welcome idea." The next morning, she went to the market and bought a small bag of beans, a few leaves for wrapping, and small firewood. She returned home full of excitement. Her first batch didn't come out well. It was too soft. The second one was better. By the third day, she had mastered it. The villagers began to gather near her stand every morning. "Ah, Iyawo Yibo," they hailed her. "Your ekuru is very sweet though." Her stand grew popular so fast that she started waking up by 4 a.m. to grind beans and cook. She was finally earning again. Not much, but enough to buy her own little things. One afternoon as she was packing up her pots, an elderly woman approached her. Her eyes were sharp and her lips were thin. "Good afternoon, Mama," Ijoma greeted politely. The old woman didn't answer. She looked at the pot of ekuru, then at Ijoma, and then she said quietly, "Who gave you the right to cook this food here?" Ijoma blinked, confused. "I don't understand, Mama. I just sell to people." The woman tilted her head slowly, her tone changing. "Which quarter do you belong to?" "Quarter?" Ijoma repeated, frowning. "I am not from here, Mama. I am an Igbo lady." The woman's eyes darkened. "You mean you are cooking our food without belonging to any quarter?" Ijoma forced a laugh, thinking it was a village joke. Mama, I just cook for business, nothing serious. But the woman didn't laugh. She hissed, turned, and walked away, her bare feet silent on the dusty ground. That night, Ijoma dreamt. She was standing in front of a large pot, the same one she used to cook ekuru. But when she lifted the lid, blood poured instead of white pudding. She woke up screaming. Demola rushed to her side. What happened, my dear? It was just a dream, she replied, breathing hard. He sighed and heard her. You have been working so hard, my love. I think you need enough rest. But deep inside, her heart was restless. She didn't understand the dream, but it felt too real. The next morning, when she returned to her store, she noticed three strange cowrie shells arranged in front of her table. She kicked them aside without thinking. That afternoon, her pot cracked open while still on fire. She was startled, but the women around her said it was normal. By the fourth day, her biggest buyer, an elderly man, suddenly fell sick after eating from her store. People began whispering. One woman told her quietly, my dear, you should actually find out from elders what this ekuru means. Some business no be for everybody. Oh. Ijoma laughed nervously. You people want superstition, eh? I beg, nothing will happen. But that night again she dreamt. This time, the same old woman was standing by her cooking pot saying, we asked you who gave you permission and you said no one. Now we will show you the meaning of this sacred food. She woke up drenched in sweat, and for the first time since her marriage, she felt fear that had no name. That morning, after the second dream, she woke up weak. She couldn't explain it. Her body felt drained, like she had carried heavy loads through the night. Demola was still asleep beside her, so she dragged herself out of the bed and went outside to fetch water. The air was strange, but she tried to shake it off and focus on work. The villagers were expecting her ekuru, and she couldn't disappoint them. She ground her beans, wrapped the paste in leaves, and placed the pot on fire as usual. But something was off. The smoke coiled in thick circles like it had a mind of its own. She felt uneasy, but she told herself it was just her imagination. As she bent to check the pot, she heard a faint murmur like a whisper from inside the boiling food. She froze. She leaned closer. The sound grew clearer, like someone speaking from the pot. She couldn't understand the words, but it wasn't the sound of steam. It was voices. She staggered back, trembling. Jesus, she gasped, staring at the pot. But when she blinked, the sound stopped. She left her food half-cooked and ran inside. By afternoon, she had calmed herself enough to think clearly. When Damola returned from the farm, she told him, Dear, I think someone is after me. Demola frowned. Who is that? I don't know, but things are happening around me. They are so strange. I can see things and I can hear things that I don't understand. He sighed deeply. IJ, I think you are overthinking. You have been working too hard. You need to rest, I beg. Nobody is after you. But, no buts here, he said gently, touching her shoulder. This is our village. You will be fine. She nodded, but her heart didn't believe him. 3 days later, it happened again. This time, she was frying pepper for the sauce when the same old woman who had asked her about permission appeared. She stood quietly across the road watching her without blinking. Ijoma tried to ignore her, but after a few minutes, she couldn't bear it anymore. She turned and said, Mama, good afternoon. The woman didn't reply. She only said slowly, We warned you. Warned me? Ijoma asked, frowning. The woman pointed at the pots on the fire. That food is not yours to sell. Ijoma dropped her spoon. Fear gripped her chest. Mama, I am not doing anything wrong. I am just cooking to sell. The old woman's eyes glowed faintly Or maybe it was the sunlight. She wasn't sure. Then she turned and walked away without another word. That night, Demola came home to find his wife burning with fever. Her skin was hot, her eyes were rolling, and her lips were muttering strange things in Yoruba language. And mysteriously, she does not even understand the language. Jesus! Ijoma! He shouted, shaking her. Wake up! He rushed her to the nearest clinic, but the nurse said it was just malaria. He wasn't convinced. He went to an old distant relative hut, desperate. Mama, something is wrong with my wife, he said. She's burning up and saying strange things. The woman sighed deeply. I heard she says ekuru. That may be the source of her problem. That food is not for everybody. Demola frowned. Mama, please, what are you saying? The woman looked at him sadly. That food is sacred. In this land, ekuru belongs to the Aje, the women of the night. It is used for gathering. It is used for sacrifice, and those who sell it without permission only invite their anger. Demola stepped back slowly, his heart pounding. Are you saying that? I am only saying, the old woman interrupted, that she is selling what she's not supposed to sell. That night, Ijoma's fever worsened. Demola knelt beside her crying. God, please help my wife. Do not allow her die. Then suddenly she stopped moving. Her body went still and her eyes rolled back. Demola screamed and shook her violently. Ijoma! Ijoma! But nothing happened. He fell beside her weeping, his voice echoing through the quiet night. Then, just as he was about to run for help, a knock came at the door. 3 firm knocks. He opened the door to find a tall slim man in a white shirt carrying a Bible. Good evening, the man greeted softly. The Lord sent me here. There is a woman in this house who must not die tonight. Demola stared at him speechless. What did you say? He stammered. The man walked in calmly. Your wife has offended powers she does not understand, but mercy has spoken for her. The battle is not for you to fight. He placed his hand on Ijoma's forehead and began to pray. His voice shook the entire room. Every strange covenant she had entered unknowingly, in the name of Jesus, break, and every hand that stirs her pot in the spirit be withered. Every voice calling her name from the gathering of witches, I command you to be silenced. As he prayed, Ijoma began to shake. Her body rose slightly and a strange wind swept through the room. The lantern flickered violently, then went out. When the light returned, she was breathing slowly and peacefully. The strange man smiled faintly. The battle has just begun, but she will not die. He turned to Demola. From tomorrow, destroy everything that has to do with Ekuru. Every pot, every spoon, and every leaf. Before Demola could even thank him, the man walked out into the darkness and disappeared. The next morning, when Ijoma opened her eyes, she whispered, Demola, I saw them. They were calling my name. Women in black wrappers. They said I took what belonged to them. He held her tightly. You are safe now, my wife. I won't let anything happen to you again. For the first time in weeks, Ijoma slept through the night without fever. Demola sat by her side until dawn, watching her breathe. His heart was grateful, but his mind was restless. He kept on thinking about the man who came the night before. The man who knew their names, their pain, and their secrets without introduction. He hadn't even said where he came from. By morning, one of the old women died and the news spread like wildfire. People whispered at the markets, some out of fear and others out of curiosity. She was found behind her hut. They said her condition was like someone involved in a fire accident. Ijoma didn't step outside that day, but she was grateful for God's mercy. Demola, she whispered. I didn't wish anyone harm. I only wanted to help us. Demola held her hand. I I know, my love. But now we must do as that man of God has said. We must burn everything that has to do with this echo. And so, at dusk, they carried the pots, spoons, and leaves to the backyard. Demola poured kerosene over them and lit a match. The fire blazed high. The smell was strange, not of beans or smoke, but something darker and heavier. As the flames rose, Ijoma thought she heard faint screams within the crackling. She squeezed her eyes shut and began to pray under her breath. Father, whatever I've entered unknowingly, deliver me. When the fire died, she felt a kind of peace she couldn't explain. But peace in a land of offended spirits never lasts long. That night, it began again. Demola was half asleep when a sound like footsteps of dry leaves woke him. He thought it was goats outside, but then he heard it again. Louder, closer, and heavier. He sat up. Who is there? He asked, but there was no answer. Then he heard whispering, faint like women murmuring. He turned to Ijoma, but she was still asleep. The whispers became clearer now. Yoruba words spoken in chorus. He didn't understand them, but they kept on repeating one line. She ate our portion and she sold our food. His blood ran cold. He jumped out of bed, lit a lamp, and moved towards the door. But before he reached it, a strong wind blew through the room, extinguishing the lights. The windows rattled violently, and then silence. Jesus! He shouted. Suddenly, Ijoma screamed from the bed. Her body lifted slightly, her hands thrashing as if something invisible held her down. Demola, help me, please, she cried. He rushed to her side, trying to pull her up, but she was stiff. Her eyes were wide open, staring at something behind him. Who are you? He shouted, turning, but saw nothing. The door swung open by itself, banging against the wall. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The room went still again. Ijoma burst into tears, shaking uncontrollably. They were here, she said between sobs. That afternoon, the same mysterious man of God appeared again unannounced. Demola ran to him in tears. Sir, please, help us. They came last night. My wife saw them. The man nodded slowly. I told you that the battle had just begun. They won't stop until every tide is broken. He entered the room where Ijoma sat trembling. My daughter, he said, what you have faced is not ordinary. The ekuru you sold is a spiritual food. It is a covenant meal in this land. The moment you began to cook it, your name was recorded among them. Ijoma gasped. Recorded? Among who, please? The society of the night, he replied. They are women born by blood to guide our food. No one outside their circle must cook or sell it without their consent. You broke their law. Tears ran down her face. But I didn't know, man of God. I too, Demola added, I sincerely don't know about the traditions of my people because I left here when I was only 5 after my father's funeral. I know, he said, but ignorance does not excuse trespass in the spirits. The good thing is, the blood of Jesus speaks louder than any covenant. He turned to Demola. From tonight, you will not sleep until you have prayed. That night they obeyed. They prayed violently. The following morning, news spread again. Another woman from the village was found dead in her compound. Her body was cold and her eyes were open. The villagers began to whisper again. They are dying one by one. By now, the fear of Ijoma's name had filled the whole community. Some said her God was fighting for her. For 3 nights in a row, strange deaths shook the community. The people who once mocked Ijoma now crossed the streets when they saw her. Some called her the stranger with fire. Others whispered, Her god kills winches. Demola and Ijoma stayed indoors most days, praying and fasting under the man of God's instruction. The man had returned to stay with them for a few days. His presence alone brought a calmness that words couldn't explain. On the fourth night, while they prayed, the man suddenly stopped. Demola, he said quietly, there is something your family has hidden, something you must speak about tonight. Demola froze. Hidden? What do you mean, sir? The man closed his eyes, lifted his hands and said softly, this battle did not start with your wife. It started with your bloodline. Ijoma looked at her husband confused. Demola, what's he talking about? Demola's hands trembled. Man of God, please, I don't understand. I don't know anything. The man's voice cut him short. Your great-grandmother was one of the founders of the Aje society in this land. She used ekuru as her covenant food. It was through that sacrifice that your family gained wealth in those days. Every first son in your lineage carries that spiritual mark. You inherited it unknowingly. Silence filled the room. Demola dropped to his knees. My God, the man continued. That is why when your wife began selling ekuru, the spirits recognized her as one of their own through you. But when she refused their call, they turned against her. The curse that slept in your family was awakened. Ijoma gasped, covering her mouth. Here, this life is deep, oh. The man nodded. Yes, it is, but God has exposed it so that it can be broken. Demola's eyes were filled with tears, and then he said like a baby, Man of God, I don't know my great-grandmother. I never knew what these things existed. I am just floating on the ocean. The man knelt beside him. Evil covenants do not die because people do not know. They only die when the blood of Jesus speaks louder than them. They prayed like never before. The man of God led them in a deliverance that shook the foundation of the house. He anointed every doorpost, every wall, and every window. At dawn, villagers gathered around their house frightened. They said a large bird, black as night with one red eye, was found dead in front of their compound. Its body burnt like fire had touched it, but there was no fire nearby. The elders took it as a sign. The gods had fought and they lost woefully, they whispered. That morning, the man of God gathered Demola and Ijoma outside. Now listen to me, he said. This victory must be sealed. There is still one more step. You must go to your family compound and destroy every remnant of your great-grandmother's shrine. Until that is done, the covenant can still speak. Demola was shaking like a native fowl. Sir, that shrine is old though. I heard it's behind the family ancestral house. People said it's been sealed for decades. The man of God said firmly, then it must be not sealed tonight. By evening, they were ready. Demola, Ijoma, the man of God and two prayer warriors went to the old family compound. The man of God opened his Bible and began to pray. Every foundation of darkness, every voice from the past, hear the word of the Lord. Your reign is over. A sudden calm swept through the air. The heaviness lifted. When they returned home, Ijoma felt light, as if something heavy had been lifted off her chest. But just when they thought it was over, something unexpected happened. Hey, African Tales by Karma Tribe, how are you all doing? For me, I am doing just fine. I hope you are enjoying the story. Please, I beg you, follow me because this one na real life matter. Kindly give the story a thumbs up, share out to your loved ones, and subscribe to this channel if you have not already done so. And let me even ask you, have you heard about this ekuru, akara fried with red oil story before? If yes, kindly share with me in the comments as we all anticipate the next part of the story. Until then, it is a goodbye from here and God Bless you.